Avatara Varishthaya Ramakrishnaaya Te Namaha Jananim Sharadam Devim Ramakrishnam Jagadgurum Padapadme Tayo Sritva Pranamami Muhurmuhu Namasri Yatirajaya Vivekananda Suraye Satchit Sukha Swarupaya Swamine Tapaharine. Dear and revered Swami Shantatmanandaji Maharaj, dear Shantatmanandaji, dear Chandikanandaji, dear Guru Bhaktanandaji and Mataji, Ishtapranandaji, and the assembled devotees, it's a matter of great joy to be present on this wonderful occasion, the 30th anniversary of the dedication of this remarkable temple. And our revered Shantatmanandaji gave a wonderful delineation of all the events that took place. In fact, he started from the founding of the Ramakrishna Mission in the movement in South Africa till its culmination in the Universal Temple, and how most revered Swami Nischalaనందజీ Maharaj and most revered Swami Shivapadanandaji contributed enormously towards these accomplishments. Of course, revered Maharaj himself was a major contributor, because he is extremely humble, never ever mentions his name anywhere. But we all know what has been his contribution, and he continues to do remarkable work. Of course, you have also been very fortunate to get Swami Shantatmanandaji, an extremely loving, affectionate and caring Swami, and enormously gifted and talented. So perhaps is going to be the next 10 or 15 years, if the master and mother, if they will, probably you would see the golden period of the Ramakrishna movement in South Africa. I've been asked to speak about the universal temple of Sri Ramakrishna. Temples have a unique place in the history and culture of Hinduism, apart from being remarkable places of sadhana or spiritual striving. They have preserved our art, culture, tradition, and so on. The best depictions of our art and culture can be found in many of the temples of India. The paintings, and more particularly the sculptures, are remarkable exhibitions of our rich culture and tradition. The temples have also been places of remarkable spiritual striving. Many of the important temples are associated with the lives of many great saints and savants. In fact, that is how the new traditions develop, new movements are generated. For example, if you go to Maharashtra, the Vithalji temple, from where a new kind of bhakti movement, the Varkari Sampradaya, etc., have emerged. They are associated with great saints like Tukaram, Namdev, and many others. So these temples have also been places for intense sadhana by many great spiritual seekers. Apart from that, they have also been places of great charity. Even now, there are a large number of temples in India where regular Annadanam is conducted, where poor people are fed. And not only that, music and other arts, they all used to thrive largely through temples. Thus, temples have had a great role to play in our history, culture, tradition, and so on. But in spite of all this, there were a few discriminatory practices. Non-Hindus and people belonging to the lower caste were not allowed entry in all those Hindu temples. And as the population increased, the temples no doubt attracted more and more people, more and more crowds, but there was so much of noise And the facilities were very inadequate to handle such large gathering of devotees. So much so, there was very little scope for contemplation or any such deep spiritual practices. There was too much of rituals and formal practices, and there was very little of the deeper pursuits of spiritual life. People largely visited those temples for fulfillment of desires. So it was all bhakti for fulfillment of kamanas and vasanas. So in this background, the temples of Sri Ramakrishna stand apart as temples of a totally different kind. Why are they called as universal temples? In what sense the Ramakrishna temples can be called or classified as universal temples? First and foremost, it's open to every human being, irrespective of caste, creed, or color. There is no discrimination, not only Hindus, Christians, Muslims. In fact, any sincere seeker who wants to practice spiritual disciplines is most welcome to visit our temples. Not only that, unlike the traditional temples where people generally used to go mostly for fulfillment of desires, our temples, a large number of people really come for spiritual awakening or spiritual pursuit. Not that they were not praying for fulfillment of desires, but at least a good number of people come definitely to do sadhana, to do advance in spiritual life. Sri Ramakrishna was an embodiment of religious harmony. It was not a harmony based on theology or philosophy and so on. It was all based on his own spiritual realizations. In fact, even these realizations were just the result of his relentless pursuit of the ultimate truth through different paths. In fact, while practicing the disciplines relating to other religions, Sri Ramakrishna was hardly aware of the details. What were their practices? How are they to be done? Somehow, he kind of got an idea that there are different approaches to truth. Different people of different background, they are pursuing the ultimate truth in their own way. He wanted to experience all that. That is why he really plunged deep into sadhana, and that is why his insatiable pursuit of truth took him to the highest realizations of the religious traditions of so many other faiths. So, Sri Ramakrishna is the deity worshipped in the universal temples of Sri Ramakrishna. Hence, all those who believe in religious harmony are welcome to worship him. Again, if we study the true saga of sadhana of Sri Ramakrishna, we find that he had added a new dimension, a new chapter to spiritual striving, namely prayer. We do find several such ideas in some of the Vaishnava scriptures, in bhakti texts and so on, but with sadhana as the bedrock, with prayer as the major pillar of support, it's possible to reach the highest scales of spiritual striving. This was really a new finding, a new gift of Sri Ramakrishna to humanity, where he established that with prayer as the main support, as the main aspect of sadhana, he could scale extraordinary heights. In fact, if you see his first major spiritual experience, his vision of the Divine Mother, in those years, the major weapon, his major practice was relentless prayer, prayer with intense vyakulata, with intense longing. So, he has definitely added a new dimension to spiritual striving. Incidentally, if you see that the major aspects of sadhana according to Christianity and Islam through churches and through namaz in mosques, etc., it's also largely prayer. Of course, there the idea of praying for supreme spiritual evolution or spiritual fulfillment perhaps is not very commonly found, although there must be very wonderful sadhakas in those traditions also. But largely, they are also basically either the namaz or what they do through the Christian churches is largely prayer. That's why I know if Christians and Muslims, if they really go through in detail the life and message of Sri Ramakrishna, if they really pay full attention to that, I'm sure many of them would feel deeply attracted, and they would also be attracted in that sense to come and use the facilities. Because when whoever comes to a temple, he or she is never ever asked about the religion or their background. Everyone is welcome to sit and pray in their own way, to their own Ishta Devata, their own object of worship, whatever be their belief. Obviously, these temples are extremely rare and very unique and very extraordinary. And they truly deserve to be classified as universal, because nowhere in the world you can find such practices. For example, I was in Delhi ashrama for more than 16 years. Every year on Christmas Eve day, it's the 24th of December, you would beautifully decorate the picture of Christ and Madonna in our prayer hall, not in some other auditorium or some other room, in the very temple. And practically in the Christian way, waving of candles and offering cakes and other items to Jesus Christ and Mother Mary, followed by singing of carols. The Archbishop of Delhi and some of the other senior Christian priests, they come and they speak. This has been a tradition going on for years. So obviously, it's a very extraordinary occurrence. And many of them, a large number of people, about 500 people, gather for such functions. And I'm sure there will be also quite a number of such practitioners there. In fact, we all know how Sri Ramakrishna, when he went to Jadu Malik's garden, how from that beautiful picture of Christ and Madonna, a light emanated and it entered into Sri Ramakrishna, and how he was deeply immersed in Christian practices for the next few days, and he did not even visit the Kali temple. So Sri Ramakrishna's approach has been extraordinary, trying to reach each ultimate view, each religion from the eyes of their own practices, their own followers. He did not do Hindu practices to realize the Christian truths. He did the Christian practices, and through that he realized the ultimate. Obviously, that really reveals that kind of an approach. In fact, Swami Vivekananda says, if Christ were to be alive today, I would have washed his feet with my heart's blood. That is the adoration Swamiji had for Christ. And so that has been our tradition. See, this universal temple, it's not just the temple is being built and it's left to fend for itself. No. Successive generations have kept up that spirit, kept up that feeling. In fact, there's a very extraordinary incident in Raja Maharaj's life. He was in Madras, and Sister Devamata, who became very closely associated with Sashi Maharaj. She was a great devotee of Ramakrishna-Anandaji, and she learned quite a lot from him. She was also staying in Madras at that time. And just a few days before Christmas, Raja Maharaj suddenly said, "Sister, we are going to come to your house for Christmas Eve." And she was simply overjoyed. Raja Maharaj would come. She had made all arrangements, beautiful altar, lots of offerings, so many other things. And Raja Maharaj came, Brahmananji, with a few other monastics. So they all came and sat. And probably sister and somebody, they just started reading the Bible. And very soon they found that Raja Maharaj was not in this world. His gaze was somewhere far, far away, somewhere else. And they knew that he was in an extraordinary state of transcendental realization. Everybody stopped. There was absolute silence for probably about 15-20 minutes or so. Then Raja Maharaj came down from that condition. He waved his fan and the reading continued. Afterwards, they were all sitting and they were having prasad. Obviously, the arrangements were very good. And then Sister Devamata said, Maharaj, I am so blessed that you came to our house today. But Raja Maharaj said, Sister, it is we should thank you. Because when he was reading the Bible, I saw Christ dressed in long blue coat standing just beside the altar. So that was Raja Maharaj's vision. So the idea of a universal temple is not just left at the level of brick and mortar. Through practices, through what we do at other times, our association, our dealing with the believers of other faiths, all that, they are all testimonies to this idea of universal temple, which however is crystallized in the beautiful temple and image of Sri Ramakrishna. So obviously, anyone and everyone who is deeply interested in spiritual life is most welcome to participate and be part of all that. Sri Ramakrishna would often say that two types of devotees come to me. The general devotees, they come and they seek mukti or liberation. But those who belong to my inner circle or antarangas, they want to know three things. Who am I? Who they are? And what is the relationship between us? Probably this would work beautifully in our universal temples, because when the devotees know that they are sincere spiritual seekers and that Sri Ramakrishna is a dynamo of spirituality, a spiritual powerhouse, and the relationship is that he is to guide them to their ultimate destiny of life. If this attitude and understanding if they have, probably they will be able to utilize this universal temple in a remarkable way. Because you will see in the entire Kathamrita, Sri Ramakrishna never narrows down his ideas to any particular worship or particular creed or particular, everything is accepted. Every idea. In fact, Swamiji, after his extraordinary experience with Pahari Baba, he wrote to somebody, one need not accept Sri Ramakrishna as an avatara. The world has not seen such extraordinary spiritual enlightenment and at the same time such compassion for the suffering humanity or the man in bondage. So he said, you need not accept him as avatar. His extraordinary sacrifice, his spiritual evolution, that is what is necessary. In fact, in this Naradiya Bhakti Sutra also, you see, how does one get the grace of God? Mahat Sangastu, by the company of the extraordinary. So, any person, a person can believe in Ganesha as his Ishta Devata, but such a person can come and if he builds this relationship with Sri Ramakrishna, and he is the conduit, he is the guide for him to reach a spiritual destination, such a person can come and beautifully practice and realize the true goal of life. That's why this this universal temple is truly universal, because it's open to every kind of spiritual aspirant, and each and everyone can truly benefit from this spiritual center. And also you would see that there's absolutely no priestcraft, or there are not too many rituals in our temples. Every day only a simple puja is done to Sri Ramakrishna, etc. Evening Aarti is done. There is no special worship for any spiritual, special individual or any person as it is done in normal temples. In normal temple, you can go, you give your gotra, name, etc. and say, for your own fulfillment of kamana or desire, you can have a puja done for anything. Here there is no such priest waiting to receive your offerings and make it for specially for you and all that. All the worship, all the practices, everything is done for the welfare of the community or for the world at large or for the entire humanity. So it is any person can come and worship here in his or her own way without sacrificing any of his beliefs or any of his tendencies. In fact, that is why in the Ramakrishna order, there are monks with Christian background. Most of, practically all of our Western monastics have a Christian background. There have been and there are monks with Islamic background. Never were they ever asked to give up their practices. In fact, that Islamic sadhu even now does namaz along with his own japa of Ishta mantra, etc. Only, Sri Ramakrishna came to fulfill. He never came to destroy. So those who come with other backgrounds also, value addition happens by them, by accepting Sri Ramakrishna in whatever way. There's no compulsion to accept Sri Ramakrishna as an avatara or as an incarnation of God. This respect is extraordinary spiritual illumination, the spiritual heights which he transcended. And that's enough for you to come and worship in this universal temple. And then, because of the strict discipline that is followed, and also the complete silence that is maintained, anyone who wants to undertake meditation or any such spiritual disciplines, worship or contemplate his own Ishtadevata, can always do without any hindrance. In fact, if you will see that in a number of our temples all over the country, whenever it is open, you will always see 1, 2, 3, 4, sometimes even more people meditating. You will never see our temples. Of course, I do not know about South Africa. In India, I have seen most of our temples, somebody or other will always be meditating. Sometimes even more, sometimes lesser number. So that means what? Everyone who comes feels a tremendous sense of peace and a calmness whenever they visit our temples. People, many coming for the first time, just they stand before the picture or the statue of Sri Ramakrishna and they are simply overwhelmed. They are not great spiritual seekers even. Maybe they are industrialists, some corporate officials. Swamiji, what is this? We feel many come, they are not formally initiated. Perhaps they are not being trained in any particular discipline of meditation. Still they feel like coming and sitting in meditation because the mind automatically calms down when you come and sit in such a temple of Sri Ramakrishna. There's another reason why this deserves to be called as a universal temple. And you'll find that it's practically, there is no unmanageable crowd in our temples. In Utsavas, a good number of people gather, but there's no jostling or pushing or shouting and all that. People come, they sit, they participate, and then slowly they disperse also. But then all those who come, particularly on special occasions, they feel even more the presence. See, I have seen in Delhi, the pujas on special days would start maybe around 7:30, people would start coming. By 8:30, the hall used to be full, about 600, 700, or 800 people were sitting. Till 12 o'clock, nobody would stir. Where would you find that in any temple? It's unique and it's universal. Absolutely pin drop silence. Then after Harati, of course, then people start going, then they go for prasad and all that. But then absolutely they stay put without staring. The constructions are also modern, simple, can be easily completed in 2 or 3 years. Maybe it may not. The old temples were all stone structures. They used to take 50 years, 100 years. Maybe one Maharaj would start, his grandson would complete it. That means, 100 years it can't be put to use, unless it is dedicated. But here, you start a temple within 2 or 3 years. In fact, our Chennai temple, they wanted to do a stone temple. That's how they started. But then Swami Ranganathanji visited. Oh, so you don't want me to inaugurate it in my lifetime? Change it. Immediately they changed. Now we have a beautiful temple. What is there? In not even 100 years, if it becomes, if it's to be renovated or completely rebuilt also, have the shrine temporarily elsewhere. In 3 years again a new structure would come up. Why waste hundreds, thousands of laborers and money and build for eternity? So obviously the temples are very modern in their construction, well lighted. Some of the temples are also air conditioned and so on. So that people can ultimately, the temple should serve the real purpose for people to sit and meditate and really enjoy that atmosphere. And then, the Narada Bhakti Sutra, because Maharaj briefly referred to that during Raja Maharaj, that message. Narada Bhakti Sutra says, Tirthi kurvanti tirthani. A place of pilgrimage really becomes awakened, becomes a great tirthasthan, only when more and more people, more and more spiritual seekers, more and more extraordinary souls come and meditate, seek God, seek the ultimate truth. They know that kind of vibrations are created. Of course, Sri Ramakrishna's presence was extraordinary in Dakshineshwar. But subsequently, because thousands and thousands of sadhakas have gone there to that room, they have sat there, they have meditated, they have prayed. Now, whenever anyone goes now, Sri Ramakrishna is no longer there in physical frame, but one can feel the vibrations. So, our universal temples, as more and more people come there, they use the facilities, they meditate, they pray, they will become more and more vibrant, and true seekers will feel the spiritual vibrations. They will be taken faster. Their journey will be quickened by such atmosphere. So that that's why should one can even go and meditate in a 5-star hotel also. The room will be absolutely calm, no sound. But what's the difference? When you come, you get that vibration, the spiritual vibration. So thus, the Ramakrishna temples, which are truly universal, they fulfill a great need of the modern society, the modern man. Because a new class of people are emerging. They call themselves as not religious, but spiritual, NRBS. Because they don't want to be tied or tagged down to any particular creed or religion or any such sect. But they want to be spiritual. They want to practice meditation. They want to realize the ultimate truth. Perhaps there cannot be a better place than the universal temple of Sri Ramakrishna, which has come to fulfill a great need of the modern society. In fact, this is where the future growth and development of religion, the unification, the harmony, and so many other extraordinary things would develop, would grow. But then the primary responsibility lies with all of us. In fact, again and again I say in all our meetings, the mission is not so much known for brilliant firebrand orators and all that, but great sadhakas, extraordinary sadhus. Of course, Thakur directors will leave them apart. Even the next generation. When I joined the Belur Math, such great sadhus were there. So, our strength, the movement of real strength is in sadhana. So, the more and more we devote our time to sadhana, that is where we will be making our own humble contribution to the growth of this movement. That is where our universal temples will really become universal in a true sense and benefit the entire humanity. Sri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu.